Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the best 15 brawlers after balance changes. So, well, I'm not sure when balance changes will drop. If I'm going to guess, it's probably going to be in and around the update. But it could definitely come maybe Monday after the recent monthly finals. But with so many balance changes, yeah, my guess would be around the update time, which is sometime at the end of this month. So, yeah, we're going to be predicting the best 15 brawlers inside of the game if there's not going to be any changes. So the great thing about these set of balance changes, we know them quite far in advance, especially because normally we just get them like a few days before balance changes. So there is time for Brawl Stars to make some changes. So I'm going to be talking about the best brawlers after the balance changes and also things that I hope don't make it with the update. And the first brawler is Mandy. So you might be thinking, well, Mandy is like an F-tier brawler in the meta. At maximum, a D-tier brawler inside of the meta. But the damage buff that she received is insane. So I think she's like going to be scraping the top 15 because she's still going to have her weaknesses, right? She's still got a hard to hit main attack because you got to stand still. But I think bounty and knockout, she's going to be absolutely insane and enough untouchable in my opinion because a 14% damage buff to her main attack is absolutely ridiculous. Yes, her hypercharge and super isn't what it used to be, but her main attack will now have so much power that I feel like any knockout long range map, it's going to be impossible to push down her lane. You know, if you're a good Mandy player and hit a couple of taps, you're going to 2-tap so many brawlers. It's ridiculous. So, yeah, I think that damage buff is going to put her at least like minimum into the high 80 inside of my opinion. She's going to get another buff to her hard candy star pad. That's not really going to impact her too much. But, yeah, people I think are sleeping on this Mandy change. I'm hoping they don't increase damage this much. No brawler needs a 14% damage buff currently. Let's buff it to around 8-9%. That might feel a little bit better. But yeah, Mandy absolutely will be meta. Another brawler who I think will be meta after the balance changes has to be Charlie. So Charlie is a really weird one. I think this is actually the weirdest balance change out of all of them. A lot of them were big wins, but Charlie receiving a 13% damage buff to her main attack. You literally think about, if you guys watched the interview with Adrian, he said a few of the brawlers that are hardest to balance are like Charlie and Carl just because of their one ammo attack. And both of them are receiving big damage buffs. And I don't want to spoil things. Carl might be in this list as well. But Charlie absolutely has to be. Because I think for me, she's leaning towards a low A tier for me. I'd say high B tier at the lowest. She's a fantastic counter to a lot of meta options. And if we're buffing her main attack by that much, I think it's too much. If they want to buff her main attack, I won't be completely against it because quite clearly the numbers somewhere aren't the strongest for her. But I'm just talking like a small like damage buff for her, or just a buff in a different category. I don't think damage is the main problem when it comes down to Charlie at all. I think everything about her is just pretty balanced or a bit on the stronger side. Not anything crazy. So yeah, but I think if these balance changes go through, is what I'm trying to say. She'll be like an S tier, but she'll be a top 3 brawler in the game. Absolute, no doubt about it, because she'll be so versatile. 1,800 damage doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. The next brawler who I think will be at the bottom of the top 15 list, I think it'll be Gray. So a little bit of a boring one. Gray, if you didn't think, like Gray's always in my tier list, been in and around the B tier. Sometimes in some metas it goes to A tier. Like 4 months ago, I think it was A tier. It was picked quite heavily on knockout, bounty, all of the time. Now he's just not really considered in draft whatsoever. There's a few cheesy compositions for him inside of Hot Zone. So he has been falling down. He definitely needs a bit of a buff. But I think a 10% damage buff will absolutely put him back into knockout, bounty. So if you talk about Gray, as long as he's like one of the best picks inside of those 2 game modes, and he's going to be usable still with Cheese because there's so many good strategies with Ems and Damian and all of these other brawlers that you can just set up your teleports and put them into the Hot Zone. So yeah, it's going to be meta again in bounty, knockout, meta in Hot Zone. So he would easily be a top 15 brawler in my opinion. He's getting also a buff to his Grand Piano. I don't think that's going to change anything, but a 10% attack damage buff is absolutely going to be A tier again, at least. Next brawler who's going to be top 15 after the balance changes is easily going to be Damian. So Damian, it's very boring just to talk about how strong Damian is, right? Because he has been one of the best. Well, he's been like the best brawler inside of the game since its release, and he's so incredibly toxic. Still with Damian, like the strategy is, yes, there are some brawlers that can counter him, but most of the time, even when you've got a bad draft, you just got to get one super and you just chain and pick your moments, and it's just hardly anything that the enemies can do. So he's getting a few nerfs, but I still personally don't think this is going to be enough. I think probably one of the biggest problems is just how entrapped these brawlers are, and it's just still the mechanic of getting knocked back with your star power after you jump in. I think it's a very broken combination in my opinion. So yeah, the super speakers will now break after an enemy hits it, which is great. Also, the super speaker damage is actually being buffed, so it's actually not being nerfed that much, and his hypercharge damage is getting buffed as well. So when you think about it, like I really just don't think that's going to be that big of a problem, because the super speakers, yeah, they're getting broken, but they're bouncing back into the middle as well. And then if there's other walls nearby, you know, Damian's just going to be punching them into the wall. Like, I think the super itself, I don't know what needs to change about it, but something needs to change. It needs to be harder to hit the super, or they're not, like, they shouldn't be as entrapped. Maybe the actual entrapment is a bit bigger, so there's more movement in around it. I don't know. Yeah, he's still easily going to be a top 5 brawler. So the next brawler on the top 15 list after the balance changes has to be Star Nova. So Star Nova, I think secretly right now, is a high A tier brawler inside of meta. I really think she is. She's still got a few weaknesses, like her lack of damage can catch up to her in certain interactions for sure. Like she's like borderline Esther in my opinion. I've been playing her a lot in ranked. Like, she's so good into a lot of different brawlers. If you get within their range, you can melt them so quickly. She's good against a lot of these mid-range kind of tank counter brawlers. I think maybe if the meta shifts, it might hurt her a little bit, but she's receiving quite a few buffs. A health buff, a 22% damage buff, by the way. 22. That is way too much. I mean, we can buff her damage a little bit with her main attack, but her main attack is actually better than her, I don't know, whatever you call lightsaber form, whatever you want to call the assassin form. That is by far her weakest point, in my opinion. I thought that was going to be her strong point. I thought the strong point was going to be, her main attack is going to be pretty weak, and then you're going to use this super, and then you're just going to latch onto people and get really easy kills, but that just isn't the case. You've also got to remember as well, she's still got a hype charge to come out, so if we're giving her a 22% damage buff, we're also giving her a super main attack damage buff as well, which is great. The heal stop power is getting buffed, yeah, that is pretty terrible, but this damage buff just can't go through, in my opinion. It just really can't. I think they want Star Nova to be meta, but that is just definitely overkill, but we'll see. So Star Nova, I think even with a couple of buffs, will just be S tier easily, because she's already borderline, in my opinion. She's just very, very underrated. She gets a hype charge, she'll get even better. So yeah, I think they're probably going overboard with the buffs. So another brawler who I believe they've gone a little bit overboard with their damage buffs, and they're easily going to be top 15 in my opinion, is against Spike. So again, I'm not totally against damage buffs. I mean, me personally, I've always said with my balance change videos that I don't want it to go back to the meta beforehand, where so many brawlers got damage buffs and it just made the game too fast-paced and you just died too quickly. Yeah, I don't really want that. So a 22% damage buff to Spike's main attack is far too much. So he is getting a nerf to compensate for this big damage buff, but again, it's too much for a main attack that can curve. You know the drama with Spike. Is really unskillful with his main attack. It's quite clear that he's too weak right now, because in pro play he was played maybe once, I think, a month in Brawl Cup. I don't actually, might not have even been played, and he's not played that much often inside of scrims. But we just need like a small tweak to Spike, because he'll always be like a fan favorite. He'll always be a high played brawler, but we never want Spike to be too strong competitively speaking, because he can be a big problem. So yeah, just maybe like a small, I don't know, buff his damage up to what it used to be, like add 100 extra damage. That would be nice for Spike. Adding like 200 extra damage is just crazy. Next brawler who I think is going to be top 15 after the balance changes has to be Chester. So funny enough, Chester's receiving 4 nerfs, and I still think he's going to be easily in and around the top 15. It's just mainly because of what Chester offers as a brawler. He's insanely versatile. He's one of his tank counters, which is still like okay and hard to kill. Like, some of the tank counters have clear weaknesses. You think of Colette, if you nerfed her, now our gadget should have clear weaknesses, single shot brawler. You think of a few of them like Spike, he's weak, maybe throws can counter, but Chester, he's got abundance of health, he's quite fast, he's got some decent range, and he's just very unpredictable. So yeah, they nerfed him a few times with his super explosion damage. Yeah, that's a great nerf. His hype charge super explosion damage, another great nerf. Like, these nerfs are great. Candy Beans is getting 2, yeah, so his gadget that gives you random boosts, so a damage boost and the reload boost, they're getting heavily nerfed. Again, these are all fantastic, but I'm still thinking that he'll be meta. I'm still thinking he just needs like a sliver of health taken away from him. I don't know, 200 health, 400 health, so he's not surviving every single interaction, it feels like. So I still think he'll be meta. You know, the meta will always need a tank counter, and Chester's always going to be consistent with his 2, 3, 4 sequence. The next brawler who I still think is going to be top 15 has to be Naja. So you're probably thinking, well, how is she still meta? Like, ever since her release, she's been S tier inside of the meta. And I still think she'll be S tier, because she's still going to have some good damage output. It's just her super won't be able to team wipe everything. The good thing about Naja is right now I still think there's some clear weaknesses. You can overwhelm her with assassins, whatever else. But if they're banned out, which pretty much, I mean, next meta, we don't even know if assassins are going to be completely meta, with Edgar receiving some nerfs and Mortis, but I still think like the big problem with her, she just does an abundance of damage. So she's receiving some big nerfs to her super damage on landing. Her supercharge from supers being reduced by 40%, and her hypercharge snakes are being nerfed in health by a lot. So these are by far, like, I absolutely wanted these nerfs, and the big thing is they didn't want to like overkill nerfs with Naja, which is fine. So yeah, I'm not really asking for more nerfs with Naja just yet, because maybe some other meta brawlers can outclass her. I don't know, we've got some like new buffy brawlers, for example. But I still feel like she's going to be a great option. Like, she has so much range, so much versatility for a sniper. So yeah, she's still going to be meta. We'll see where she lands in, like, if she's still S tier. She's absolutely still going to be top 15 easily. The next brawler who's going to be top 15 after the balances has to be Pierce. So Pierce, I think with Pierce, they kind of just keep slapping him on the wrist, in my opinion. Yes, I think they're a little bit careful with Pierce, because I think probably with the majority of player base, 99% of player base, they probably think Pierce isn't really that great, because you have to land shots consistently, and pros can really utilize that. But even the pros still don't like completely play Pierce everywhere. They still have to pick and fine-tune their matchups. So I guess like Pierce it's just dependent on the user, right? I think he'll be like a low S tier, high A tier brawler, which I'm completely fine with, because he's a really fun sharpshooter to play. But anyways, we just slapped on the wrist because they nerfed his bottomless mags gadget again, which is great. 22 seconds. You might not think like this is a toxic gadget, but it just enables him to keep cycling his last shot so frequently. It's a very toxic trait to have, but it's quite clear that they don't want to touch his like base mechanics, because that could make him way too weak. So yeah, I'm okay with that. And then his shield gadget, it actually might be an underrated change. Well, a good nerf to him. So that's been nerfed from 12 seconds to 18 seconds. So before with Pierce, in Gem Grabber against assassins, you could still go shield and you could defend yourself a little bit. Now it's a 6-second extra long window, so assassins will be able to counter him a little bit more frequently. So maybe that is an underrated nerf, but I think he'll be clinging on to top 15 for sure. The next brawler who I think will be top 15 after balance changes has to be Rico. So he's the brawler, and I think the community also represent my feelings as well. I think we're all scared of Rico when he gets buffies, right? Because Rico has a habit of being a noob stomper essentially, but also a pretty annoying brawler to face off against, whether it's ladder, whether it's the right map. He can be pretty annoying to face off against. So we don't know what Rico's buffies are. We know that pretty much 99% certain that Rico, Brock, and 8-Bit are going to be getting those buffies with the next update. And I would hedge a big bet that probably all of those brawlers are going to be in and around A tier easily with all of these new buffies. But I think Rico's going to be the best out of 3 for sure, because you've got multi-ball launcher. Like, I don't know what they're going to do to that gadget, but with a buffy, that's surely going to be very toxic. You've got bounce castle as well, a really fun gadget. I can just, again, sense that the gadget's going to be very strong with buffies. Star power buffies, I don't know, but the hypercharge buffy, I'm also pretty scared. I don't know, because with Rico, you mainly focus on cycling through his supers. You're not actually shooting many main attacks with it, so maybe might be overrating on Rico a little bit. I just don't know where he's going to land. I honestly, I'm just excited as a Rico main. I'm kind of excited to see his buffies, but I can't lie, it should easily be top 15 with buffies, right? Unless they just, I don't know, make terrible buffies. Next brawler on my top 15 list after the update has to be Bolt. So this is kind of like a prediction. Bolt isn't even out yet. He's out in one day when I'm recording this. So maybe I get it wrong, but I kind of just get the feeling that Bolt is going to be absolutely insane. I just get that feeling. He's going to feel a little bit weird for people. It's going to take a little while to adjust on how he works, right? Because every brawler in the game, pretty much, other than maybe the Chuck and a few others, you're constantly like in and around. When you're like in a fight with someone, you're constantly in and around the area, and you're like trying to sneak up onto someone, or that kind of sense with an assassin. But with Bolt, you're just going around the map in a circle, and you're just kind of like, you're playing your own game, basically. You're playing, I don't know, I forgot what the game I used to play when I was younger, but you know what you mean. You're playing with the bloody Hot Wheels and it's going around a track. That's kind of how you are with Bolt. Like, you're literally just zooming around the map, and it's up to your two teammates to do other things, and you're just driving by essentially and just killing these people. So the reason why I think Bolt is going to be so good is because of his star power. His star power stops any CC. He's completely immune to him for 4 seconds, his whole super duration, and he gets a speed boost. He gets a speed boost with his main attack. I just think it'll be too much, and you've got a gadget that gives you 4k shield as well. I think you ramp up the speed too quickly. Yes, you do also get knocked out of your speed a little bit. Like, there's a few nuances there which I'm hoping that I can adjust to myself, you know, after playing him a bit. I think I'll get the hang of it, but I'm also scared that it's just going to be too much. You're going to be able to cover too much ground, especially on an open map. I think it'll be too much of a problem, personally. He has so much health. Yeah, I've just got the feeling that Bolt's going to be very strong. Next brawler who I think is easily going to be top 15 has to be Edgar. So Edgar, again, got some nice nerfs, which I don't think they should have nerfed him really that much more, because, again, there's other brawlers that can pop into the meta. We have to see how he fares off. He received 3 nice nerfs, so I'll quickly go from Let's Fly cooldown. It went from 14 seconds to 18 seconds. Fisticuffs, Buffy, so when you kill someone, you get 30% of your maximum health back. That's been down to 20%, and his hype charge rate has gone up from 2.5 supers to 3 supers. So yeah, some really good nerfs with Edgar, but I still think his hype charge itself just deals so much damage. I just feel like people just can't respond to it. It's just an insane amount of damage. Still, the Let's Fly cooldown, I'll probably like it to be like 20 seconds, 22 seconds. I still anticipate that I'll probably get another nerf in the update after this. Because you think about it with Edgar, right? The toxic thing is you can just use... You basically got 2 jumps. You can use your super, then you can use a gadget, or you can just do vice versa and latch onto a brawler from across the map. So, yeah, I think Edgar will easily be minimum high AC brawler. The next brawler who I think is going to be in the top 15 still is easily going to be Mortis. So I think time and time again that Mortis seems to be getting, I don't know, these, again, slaps on the wrist, which just aren't really going to be doing all that much to him. So with Mortis, I think every pro player will want a Mortis nerf pretty much. Even the ones that enjoy playing Mortis a lot, he's just very toxic to play against. So the biggest problem is definitely his combo spinner damage, and maybe that is a great nerf that as time goes on won't be as dangerous to face off against. The biggest problem absolutely is the combo damage. You can like dash in and just snipe people across the map. So we're nerfing that twice essentially with the cooldown. That is taking an extra 3 seconds to get that gadget again. And then your combo spinner bonus damage is normally 50%. That's down to 30%. So some great nerfs. But I still feel like there's still too much power in Mortis' kit. When you think about Mortis, he can just take down 1 versus 1 so many brawlers in the game thanks to this gadget. So maybe if that's nerfed, he'll be a bit weaker. If these nerfs don't, you know, put him down in the meta like he should be, he shouldn't really be a top 15 brawler in the game, right? He's the most played brawler in the game. We shouldn't have him just running rampant everywhere. But if these nerfs don't do anything, they should do something, right? I still think it'd be like lower end of top 15. They should be looking towards his hyper charge, right? Or something along those lines, so he isn't just able to team wipe blindly into people. So yeah, I still think he'll be a very annoying option to face off against. You think of Gem Grab, he's one of the best brawlers, Bounty, get Blue Star. He's just a nuisance to deal with. The next brawler who I think will still be top 15 has to be Otus. So Otus, I think, is the one brawler everyone's talking about because he didn't receive a nerf, which, again, I'm interested to see what you guys think in the comment section, whether he's deserving of one. Myself, I just don't think he really needs a nerf. If he was to get a nerf, it should be something very small. I don't think he should touch his damage because, again, the meta needs a tank counter, a consistent one like Otus. Maybe he has got a little bit too much range, but he's one of these brawlers that not many people complain about. There's hardly any frustration against Otus. When we hear people get angry about Otus, because that's just him, like he's just doing his job. Poor little Otus. He doesn't need a nerf, okay? I'm not even an Otus main, and I actually get annoyed facing off against Otus because he just mutes you, and his hypercharge is very hard to face off against. He just always seems to chip you down. So I think easily will be an S tier brawler again, unless the meta completely shifts and it's a very controlled meta, then he will just naturally fall down. But yeah, he didn't receive any nerfs, funny enough. Maybe he does deserve a small one, but yeah, for now, he's easily going to be S tier still. The last brawler on my top 15 list after the balances has to be Lumi. So Lumi right now, inside of ranked, pretty much all my ranked games and just in pro play in general, you ban Edgar and Mortis, and you pretty much have a free Lumi matchup. She's absolutely insane. She just deals so much damage. Her gadget just gives you free area control, and she can shoot around walls. She can rack up damage. She can slow people. Her super deals a lot of damage. And yeah, Lumi's just insane right now. If you didn't know, she's easily one of the best brawlers inside of their game. She's receiving 2 good nerfs. I honestly think she probably needs a little bit more of a nerf, but we'll see what this does to her. So the biggest problem and frustration for a lot of players is definitely her Ice gadget, in my opinion, because you can just plop one attack over there, and you're just blocking 2 choke points with 1 gadget. You don't even have to earn it. It's a green button. It's very frustrating to face off against. So they're nerfing the duration of the actual ice on the ground. So from 4 seconds essentially to 3, which is great. And then the gadget size is being decreased by 14 seconds. I still don't think this is going to be enough, but I think Lumi hasn't been a good brawler for a little while. So I don't think they want to shoot her too far down the meta. But yeah, it's quite clear that these nerfs aren't really going to be doing too much. Yeah, I think they are great nerfs, but I still think she's going to be a very powerful brawler. So I've got a few brawlers as well that will be honorable mentions. I think like Ash with the tank trait could be pretty interesting. I feel like Meeple will just be in and around. He received a couple of nerfs, but I think it'd be just below, because maybe I think brawlers like Ash or brawlers like Bolt could be good great counters to Meeple, so putting him a bit down. You've got Ruffs as well, you've got Mina, you've got a few other options which will still be pretty good in and around top 15. But yeah, these are my predictions for now. If there's going to be any more changes to balance changes, I will let you guys know in a future video. I do anticipate them being at least a couple of changes, so yeah, I'll let you guys aware of that. But that's going to be it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.